Good evening, Oak Bloke here, and this is covering Baillie Gifford's smaller companies, and going to look at the July update. This is a monthly look at look, and this is one of my ideas for 2025. So it's not yet published, but I'm sharing it on YouTube first. So this is a fund that covers SMEs within Japan. I say SMEs. I mean, you might think smaller meant that they were very, very small companies and little startups or something. No, they're not really. I mean, you can see there they're the smallest ones, about 270 million market cap, through to almost 4 billion market cap. So they're not they're not altogether that small at all. Just kind of covering off who these are and what they are. So GA, we're talking about today. That's a kind of like a right move for Japan. I tend to find it quite helpful to think of these things in context to what we understand them to be in the UK, but obviously it's not connected with Rightmove, or it's just I'm using that as an analogy to help understand. The Katitas is a home renovator, so I call it the Japanese Homes Under the Hammer. It's not a television show. They just buy houses that kind of abandoned and renovate them and sell them. And actually quite a novel thing to do in Japan. So it's a business that sells to low-income families that can then save money versus renting. So there's a big houses, or historically a culture of only buying new. It's it's not perhaps like in the UK where you'd have a room full of people in an auction and I'll bid this much, bid this much. That quite often they are the only bidder on these properties, so they can buy them cheap, and they are the leading player in what they do. And you can see here they're nearly a 1 billion market cap company. So Sugami is an industrial firm. Yonex, I'm going to be talking about today, is a badminton and tennis racket manufacturer. Does a few things as well, golf, other things as well, but badminton is its mainstay. Cosmos is a bit like Boots the Chemist, so they have little sort of pharmacy shops, kind of like Boots. They're not connected with Boots, nothing to do with Boots, but about 2/3 the size of Boots. So again, a not small operation. Nearly 4 billion. Then we've got LifeNet, which is life insurance. So not one that I've covered today, but I've covered in past articles. So you can see this column here is quite an interesting column. So this is how much these have gone up by year to date. So since I included this idea in the Oak Bloke 25 for 25, that was the start price. That's today's price. And when I say today, I mean last night, essentially, because obviously the Japanese market's open overnight compared to the UK. So it'll open at 1 in the morning and close at about 6:30, I think it is. Anyway, you can see this is one of the ideas that has more than doubled in price this year. NIFCO do fasteners, so like if you have something that tightens up your rucksack, that little plasticky thing, the bobble, I think people would call them, is probably manufactured by NIFCO. So they are a industrial. Infomart is a kind of like a B2B marketplace for restaurants. So kind of like an e-commerce or an e-procurement platform. These guys do entertainments. These guys do ramen shops. And then we've got some others as well. So this is a marketing company, another manufacturer. This one does microscopes. This one does ball bearings that are used in particular ways. SWCC is electrical copper wire and large industrial connectivity. So if you've got substations and power transformers and equipment like that, they do all the kit that connects all those things together. Mega Chips is a silicon chip microchip company. They make integrated circuit boards or integrated chips. Raxul is a media company. Nakanishi does dentist equipment manufacturer. Wealth Navi got bought out by, I think it was Mitsubishi Finance, but got bought out at earlier this year, and then Avex as well is again a marketing firm. So as you can see there, the average that these have gone up by. So these are not the whole of the holdings, but these are the ones that have featured in the top 10 during 2025. So I've covered them in a monthly article. So these 19 average are up 39%, and these top 10, so top 10 as in the largest holdings in this fund, have actually gone up 58% since the 1st of January. So I don't think all of that is in the price. Obviously, the last update was as at 3107.25, and you can see here that their earnings comes to that number there, which should be that number. Or actually, no, it's not that number there, because it is. So that is looking at all of those earnings there, whereas that one is just looking at the top 10. So the top 10 have delivered 576 of net profit. This is sort of trailing 12 months. The market cap, if you add all those up, is 11.2 billion. So overall, the top 10 are on sort of below 20 times earnings. And then the overall list, they're on 17 times earnings. So they're not mega cheap, but they are growing fast, and you'll see some evidence of that today. So yeah, as I say, you can buy it, well, from different platforms. I mean, I've got one up on screen here as illustratives. You can see here, obviously went through a period of poor performance, but I kind of looked at this last year and thought, you know what, this has got some actually very strong holdings inside there, and they've actually made some changes this year to put in a new fund manager. So the fund manager was swapped out earlier on in 2025, and as I say, historically this is essentially the same as Shin Nippon, Baillie Gifford Shin Nippon investment trust. So depending on sort of the time scale, obviously back here 5-year performance, but if we look at the 1-year performance, we can see sort of post April, the flash crash and Trump tariff Lib Day, that we can see a peak or a trough to peak of 28%, and I think what this reflects is that there are smaller holdings that the new fund manager is getting rid of, that haven't performed, because when you consider that since this date here, this has grown by what, 10%, whereas you look at the top 10 have grown by 58%. So logically, it's the stuff lower down, the smaller holdings, that have performed very, very poorly. Must have done for them to have not delivered more than this net nine. I think it's 9.1 actually. Thinking about it, it's 9.1 there. And last month it was 3.6. So it's grown by it's grown by 5.5% in a month, which is very encouraging. So how's it grown, I guess, is the question. Well, so I suppose there's two that I'm going to focus on today. So GA and Yonex, number 1 and number 4. Both of them have delivered results. So in the case of GA, this is, I call it sort of like the right move. It's more of a right rent. So rather than people that are buying and selling houses, this is people that are investing in buy-to-lets. and are selling a buy-to-let property. So it's a very focused part of the real estate market. Um, and what they do is kind of replacing paper and manual processes. So they've got a website that will sort of like Rightmove, I guess, that it will sort of say, oh, the council tax is this, the broadband speed is that, the local school is here, all of those fun things that people ask about and want to know about when they're looking at buying houses. And I suppose in the case of a buy to let, it's not that they're sort of thinking about their kids or their connectivity speed. They're thinking about how easily they can get a tenant in. And, obviously it's things that the tenant potentially cares about. So there's a lot of AI that's used in that, search engine essentially. And you can see here, the disruption that these guys are doing is sort of moving it from a paper-based, very manual, time-intensive process through to kind of, the I suppose this first digitalization era of having a website and having a website that you can browse through. Great, that makes it a bit less removes some friction, but there's still a lot of manual processes. So the second digitalization is to essentially to hook it all together with social interaction and digitization of things like contracts and processes are digitized. So it's a platform rather than just a website. And then the final step, and this is kind of a work in progress. You can sort of see GA leading the, as a front runner. That what they're adding into all of this is a whole level of AI. So very exciting. Obviously, something that's very new to the market or relatively new to the market because there's a very strong tradition of paper in Japan that is changing. Obviously, it's a more efficient approach to digitize things, and also just hook things together. So, for example, if you're investing into a property, you'll have to do a tax return. The sort of the equivalent of a self-assessment, which is the NTA in Japan, and essentially the app kind of does all of that for you, so it can manage your property, it can manage your tax affairs. So it's kind of a sort of property management platform, as well as a find a property to invest in platform. So that's hence the kind of analogies there. If you look at globally listed companies, GA is a minnow in that room that its market capitalization is a lot smaller than Airbnb and a lot smaller than Rightmove and so on. But the point being that what it's doing is fairly unique. Actually, I don't think there's anybody doing exactly what these guys are doing. The closest might be CoStar in the US. Um, but there's sort of nobody doing exactly what they're doing, um, and the interesting thing is that if you can make it work in Japan, the plan and the sort of long-term goal would be to replicate this across to other markets, to the US probably as the first one, just because of the size of it and the size of the opportunity. But even in Japan, I mean, there's a massive market, there's a massive opportunity, um, and lots of people that rent. It's a common it's kind of, I talk about it as being sort of a bit like what Britain was 20 years ago. That a lot of people would be a sort of amateur landlord and have your rental property as your pension plan, and there's a lot of people that would do that sort of thing. I think those days are now pretty much over. There's only a few wannabe diehards that are still in that. You've either sort of expanded your buy to let business, you've turned it into a business, you've professionalized, or you've exited. There's too much red tape, too much. Too many reasons not to carry on an amateur basis. So anyway, looking at GA's returns and GA's performance, so 92% increase in net profit. So you can see compared to 2022, 23, 24, that they're on track now. So 4.2 is the half year. They're looking at 5.5 net profit. That's billion yen, which is about 45 million pounds net profit. And so you can see there's a growth going on here, and that's the size of the Japanese market. And once they've dominated that, then the US rental market is worth 3 trillion. And that's not the US real estate market. US real estate market's a lot bigger than that. That's just the rental buy-to-let market. Yeah, really exciting company, I think, and obviously the results and the growth in profits is very impressive. The share itself is up 51% year to date, so it's not actually the best performer. You can see there's others that have that one's triple bagged, that one's double bagged, that one's double bagged, and lots of them that are sort of into the double digits, 20%, 40%, and so on. A couple that are obviously down, and they're ones that are no longer in the top 10 because obviously they, I suppose, the share price dropping caused them to fall out of the top 10, naturally. So anyway, this is sort of one of the two ideas, and that sort of again gives you an idea of that total addressable market and the just I suppose the ecosystem that they're looking to build and to drive. And as they do so, that profit margins are growing. So it's not just that they're increasing revenue, but they're actually increasing margins. And there's a stickiness to it as well, that once you start using their platform, why would you stop? That you've obviously got that stickiness, like Rightmove do with estate agents in the UK. That there's a good recurring income that can come out of it. So you can see that's GA. The second one I was going to talk about is Yonex. So this is the fourth largest, and these again have really impressed. I have covered this company a few times, and always very impressed by their marketing, by their strategy, and just sort of taking that grassroots approach to rather than sort of sponsoring a very expensive, famous tennis player. For the same money, you could sponsor, a few million amateurs in a local club, at grassroots level, and that's the approach they've taken, and that's been particularly in countries like India and China, where they're looking to grow. And today, well, not today, but the recent results, they were last week actually. The results just reflect that this was the for example, the Chinese Sudirman Cup in Xiamen, China, and then I think there was also a second one in Chengdu that they were very heavily sponsoring. So you can see that they've achieved an improvement to margin, improvement to sales. Obviously, have incurred some increased costs, and some of those are investment in marketing, essentially. So you can see, a pretty much a doubling of profit year to year. So that's Q1 2026 is April to June 2025. One of the funny things with the Japanese is that they'll sort of very often sort of use the current year for the future year. So whereas we would call it FY26, they would call it FY25. Although Yonex is the exception, they actually sort of follow the Western, or the I suppose the US approach of the financial year is the year that it ends in, not the year that it begins in. Anyway, that's just something very particular. So you can sort of see here 51% growth in China and India. So that's the bit that's really driving the growth, and actually that's the composition of sales. So the Asian sales are now sort of outweighing the Japanese sales, and you can see that's the increase in capacity. So 70% increase in capacity, and I would say the growth is 60%. This number has grown by, so there's a very strong growth. And again, you know, what we can see is Yonex as a result is now a triple bagger, um, and the change in share price, even from when I last wrote an article, which was on this date here in June, it's up by 43% in 2 months, pretty much. So and you can see, you know, a lot of the other ones. So GA's up 39%, and then plenty of others up in double digits. So yeah, I think there's a lot more still to come. You know, these two are the only two so far that have announced their results to the end of June. So obviously the others will be following. So I'm kind of expecting to see more positive, uh, you know, higher inflation, but strong sales growth. And you know, each of these have got good good um, intellectual property or strategic reasons why they can grow their businesses. So that's that's everything from me on this. Hope that's been useful, and look out for the article in the next day or two. Okay, Oak saying cheerio for now. Cheerio for now.